Okay, let's get started a little bit early. I want to talk about fascism. I want to talk about the F word. Um, and what I think fascism is, why I think it's very appropriate to use it in this moment, um, which we should acknowledge is controversial. I think that many people, many reasonable people, including, people I know, like reasonable people who are, you know, quite smart and are, on some spectrum of being opposed to this regime as I am, have quibbled with me on my use of the term fascist to describe what we are now seeing. Um, I've started using this word to describe the regime, and I started thinking about using this word. I've been saying like reactionary a lot and like neo-reactionary and a lot of my writing um over previous months and recently I've sort of really started using the word fascist. One should probably admit that some of it's for like rhetorical effect, but I mean it's not purely for rhetorical effect. And I know it's shocking to say, given the fact that people, often think it's hyperbole to use that word, but I would actually argue that this is actually a time where the word fascist absolutely applies. Um, so there's obviously the accusation that one might make of exaggeration or hysteria in the use of fascism, but there's probably like a more important objection to the use of fascism that often comes from it often comes from like a good place. Sometimes those within the Jewish community or those sort of concerned with um, you know issues like Holocaust denial might see the use of fascism as a form like deployed in the modern age as sort of like cheapening the historical connection between fascism and the Holocaust, which I think is I think a lot of people do think like this, and when when you actually like spell it out that way, I mean, like one should realize like how that's actually kind of a ridiculous construction. I mean, there's been many different fascist regimes in the world. Not all of them resulted in the Holocaust of an ethnic group. Some did, right? I mean, in the case of Saddam Hussein, the Ba'athist Party. I mean that was a form of fascism, and the the ethnic minorities of Iraq would certainly suggest that he carried out something like a Holocaust. The Kurds certainly would. Um, So but there's also been regimes, right? Like like Salazar, right? Which didn't like feature literal death camps. So I mean, it just does have to be said that like yes, I mean like fascism has a tendency to lead towards these incredibly dangerous places, as some of the examples that I've just trotted out show us. And it's one of the reasons why we should be very worried about fascism. One question that one might ask though is like, do people think that most Germans, in the early years of the rise of the Nazis, um, would have projected or would have assumed the existence of extermination camps like Auschwitz? I don't think most German. I actually don't think most Germans would have assumed that was where things were going. It is, of course, the danger of fascism that, as like the constraints of the rule of law and constraints on power, um, um, uh, then the possibilities for these kinds of outcomes are, obviously enhanced, because power's no longer controlled. It's not accountable to anything. And unaccountable power can do really, really dangerous things. And one of the things that power does, when it feels it's challenged, when it has a challenge like legitimacy challenge, or the masses are all riled up about something, is to create fear and distraction and spectacle. And one of the you know well-known ways to do this, that kind of is this well understood, right, throughout history, is war is a great way to, um, really force the people that you're ruling to sort of sort of fall in line underneath you, because you create this external threat which seems bigger than the internal threat. This is what authoritarians, not just fascists, but like, authoritarian movements of all stripes, including monarchical authoritarian movements. So I mean, like the point, the issue that I would acknowledge here in using the word fascist is, it does fall into the trap of a certain group of people in our society saying, "Oh, well, you always call right wing politicians fascists." We should like talk about that maybe for 1 second, right? I mean, I think it is true that like a lot of like leftists use fascism as a catch-all, right? Like they'll call everything from border enforcement to, neoliberal economic policy fascist, which is, I think, a mistake, right? Um, Neoliberalism is in fact like an extreme version of, extreme form of liberalism, right? Like, I prefer to use the term market fundamentalism, but it's that is like a a view within liberalism, that I don't subscribe to. I think is wrong. But like, that's not fascist. It's not, but even though like I think a lot of, and I do acknowledge that, like, a lot of leftists are not liberals. They are not, and that is also something that we have to sort of acknowledge. And so, um, it is the case that a lot of non-liberal leftists, like socialists, Marxists, you know, maybe anarchists, will often have difficulty telling the difference between liberalism and fascism in some extreme cases, and I've seen this, which is, for I think it's stupid, not very sophisticated when you see this, but it's pretty common, right? Like, if you're like a, you know college age, campus leftist, today, I mean, even like 20 years ago, or 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, yeah, like, you support capitalism, yes, you're a fascist. Okay. Like, by that definition, like, you know basically, like, I think even AOC is a fascist, because like, I don't think that she actually plans on getting rid of the ability to own private property, and for private business to exist. She may like want to regulate it and tax it more, like, say, happens in more in social democratic countries, but that's not actually like getting rid of capitalism. So these distinctions are kind of silly on the left. But I am making the case that Donald Trump is in fact, a fascist, and this is a fascist regime. Um, After saying all of that, and the sort of ridiculous ways in which the left has used the term fascist, or I've seen it used, ridiculously. As for like why, like, I think this is like very obviously fascist. in the contemporary context is, we have all the, we have some pretty important features that I would say, um, these other examples lack, which is the fact that like there's a cult of a leader, right? There's a leadership cult, which is an important part of fascism. We have this MAGA, Donald Trump. He's like seen to stand above the institutions. Um, you have this sort of like rabid movement that sort of is looking at these court cases and saying, "How dare the courts check, Trump's like executive authority?" That's a very fascist element. I mean, the other just being sort of this like disdain for pluralism, like as a value, right? Which I would say is like not necessarily like something that like neoliberals don't necessarily have disdain for pluralism. There's like neoliberals, sure, they think that the market should go nuts, and you can disagree with them, but they're like pro gay rights and they're feminists and like I mean like so these things are not intrinsically connected. In the case of like Trump and Trumpism and MAGA, there's like a like very like ideologically obvious disdain for pluralism, as a feature of the politics. Um, another element of it, right, is the use of is now like using like legal structures to undermine law while you know preserving its appearance. Um, the sort of like uh so the performative way in which like fascists tend to focus on sort of like the aesthetics of power and like the aesthetics of institutions, while on like the inside like actually like having not giving a shit about following the rules, just like thinking about like how everything appears on the outside for the purpose of spectacle. We have that now like in the case of like basically all the power ministries, right? Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, like I mean Christy Nome, like this is insane. So the other like big one, right, is like this sort of this mythic ideal of a like national rebirth, like reinvigorating the nation for sort of like this like modern age and restoring this like lost, stolen, past. That's a very important feature of fascism. Like "Make America Great Again" is like obviously like a very like direct embodiment of that in the political rhetoric. So we have that. Um, and then it's just and then you have the other temple of it, which is like anti-intellectualism, right? The sort of we call it vibes now, but it's really the replacement of like intellectual and rational argument and truth seeking with resentment and grievance and spectacle. And so these are like these features, which I would say, you could argue some of them were present some of the time in the older incarnations of the Republican Party, and Barry Goldwater. Um, but like was like Ronald Reagan a fascist? Did he tick any of these boxes? No, no, he didn't. He was like he was, you could you could argue that very with a very straight face that Reagan actually was in fact a some form of like a liberal, right, in the classical sense, that had conservative social views, that had a belief in the role of the state, that was tied back to some like belief in like natural rights, right, and some sort of like natural order of things. But that's not fascist. Like you can think that's all wrong and crazy and like that trickle down economics was bullshit, but that was a position. It was a position that like Ronald Reagan argued that this if we do it this way, it will be better for everyone. And so they tried it, and there's people who have like, well, it didn't work, and so we need to go back and change it. But that's not fascist, right? Like Reagan left office happily, right? and was a normal politician that did not try to consolidate all power in the White House. So I mean, we can't just like throw this word around um, on one hand, but we also can't not use it when it applies, and it certainly applies now. This is fascism that we're seeing. That's alarming. It's historically alarming. Um, it it really does put paid to this idea that like America was immune to this kind of political malady, or clearly not, because this is clearly fascism, and fascism is clearly here. It has a powerful base of support. Um, Maybe a minority base of support, but it's a powerful, committed base of support. Um, it has features of support that are deeply worrying. Uh, I mean, like, has like probably support of like, I don't know, 70, 80% of like, uniformed police officers in the United States sort of like are pretty MAGA sympathetic from polls I see. That's scary. Um, that means that like it's gonna be can be pretty easy to um when things get tough, right? To get like certain people to put their loyalty potentially above law. I'm not like saying that any police officer is going to do that, but it's I think it's very concerning that American police overwhelmingly support this regime. Um, uh, I understand some of the cultural reasons for that, but I don't know why any police officer in this country that has sworn an oath to uphold the law is able to see this regime, which is violating the law, with reckless abandon. I mean, Donald Trump accepting a jet from the Qataris, the way he has a $400 million palace in the sky, is a violation of the Emoluments Clause in the Constitution. That's illegal. And so if you're a, a police officer in the United States who has a badge and a gun and you've sworn an oath, I don't know how you can support this, man. I really don't. I mean, I understand, like, whatever you might say about left-wing politicians not backing the cops and whatever grievances you may have, like, I still don't understand, like, how you could potentially support this lawless regime. Um, and if you and if and knowing all this information, you continue to support this regime, I'm deeply disturbed by that. Um, and I think we should think about that. We do have to think about the political loyalties of police officers in this country. We do. Um, uh, the police unions have backed MAGA. Um, they are like the enforcers of the law. This government is has ignored court orders. It has rendered dozens, at least dozens of people, innocent people. I mean, the Cato Institute, the libertarian, the right-leaning libertarian Cato Institute has identified 50 individuals at the Seacot prison in El Salvador, which is it's a gulag, it's a concentration camp. 50 of these people appear to have done nothing wrong. They appear to have actually followed all of our immigration laws, and they are now serving life sentences outside the reach of any law, from what we can tell. This administration is undertaking no efforts to correct this. Um, the law enforcement officers that put these people in handcuffs and drag them onto planes um, are collaborators. with this illegality. I mean, I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Um, I mean, on one hand, I do think that I do think that the reaction to Black Lives Matter in many cases went way too far, at the local level. I mean, defunding, like, we saw what happened, right? Like, we had literal crime sprees, right, in California cities as and now even like left-wing mayors are like propping up the police departments because of the crime. I mean, it just has to be acknowledged, right? Like, I mean, like that happened, right? Um, like we went through this period where we basically like beat down the police, had massive crime sprees, and then now we're like rebuilding police departments. That's a thing. And I get, like, a lot of police like are angry about it, and they blame left-wing politics on it. Not completely incorrectly. But at the same time, I mean, like, if the police are supporting a fascist regime, that's like, it's even worse. It's scary. I can hold both of these thoughts in my head at the same time. Um, I'm terrified of the police. Um, uh, Polling data shows that they're very right wing, very conservative, and very Trump supporting. Um, and we have a lawless president. So, I mean, like, what is one, what is one to make of that? I mean, it's a very scary situation. I think Americans should be deeply concerned and deeply skeptical, um, of police, in this country today. And if police want to prove me wrong, then stand up for the rule of law. Like, speak out against this. Speak out against the fact that like people are being renditioned to foreign countries extra constitutionally. Um, if you really believe in your loyalty oath, or your oath of your service oath, then like you should demand fidelity to law for everyone, including yourself, and those who give you orders, and all of the elected and unelected officials within the government. That's like table stakes. So I'm deeply concerned. I'm deeply concerned about the fact that if things get dark, that because American police tend to be so right wing, and when the cards are down, um, and it's between the courts issuing orders to police and someone like Donald Trump, that some of these police will choose to ignore the courts. I hope I'm proven wrong by that. Um, but I'm also observing how federal police are willingly engaging in like illegal renditioning of people, in violation of due process rights. We've sent, like, as the Cato Institute has suggested, 50 innocent people to life sentences. What, like, it isn't just Donald Trump that did that. There's a whole bunch of bureaucrats and armed police with badges that carried that out. How do they sleep at night? They're just doing their jobs. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. It's not good enough. You have an obligation to say no when you're told to do something that's illegal. Part of it's That's also like basically like part of like the spirit of the oath. So yeah, I think this is fascism. Now, like, do I think that, like, do I have any predictions for like where this is going? Um, I mean, I think it's going to get a lot worse, right? I think that we're already seeing this. We're seeing Democratic politicians are being arrested. Governor of New Jersey, member of Congress, today. Um, and of course, these police are going to be the ones that are carrying these people away in handcuffs. So yeah, like, I don't trust American police based on their political views, um, based on the fact that that immigration, especially federal law enforcement, and I know there's gonna be angry people who are gonna say, like, all these people are like, you know, brave, Americans who put their life on the line every day for Americans. Yeah, but if you if you follow illegal orders, you're a collaborator. That's what you are. Um, I do like and I know this makes like a lot of people very uncomfortable. Like I've read history, and um it's very obvious that, and I talk about Hannah Arendt all the time, right, in my blog. I was like, and you should read Hannah Arendt's work, right? Um, her study, right, on how like fascism like actually operated in Germany, and how that all came about, and yeah, I mean, it was all just normal people doing small parts of their job. I was told to be here. I was told to sign this paper, right? Like it just like, but like at the end of that process was you know, some Jewish family being moved into a gas chamber hundreds of miles away. Um, so yeah, like I'm sorry, I do expect like civil servants to say no. And I don't trust the police because they've backed this regime politically. And this is a fascist regime. So take that for what you will. If that make me people uncomfortable, I don't care, right? Like, I mean, this is my First Amendment right to say what I think on this point. Um, I don't think I should have to live in fear in my country, and I try not to live in fear. But these people certainly are giving us a lot to be afraid of. They're giving us a lot to be afraid of. Um, and we shouldn't be a society ruled by fear, and we are becoming a society ruled by fear. So if I don't know, if American police want to prove me wrong, prove me wrong. Say no when you're given an illegal order by these fascist politicians or these fascist leaders. Because it's what they are, and that's not hyperbole, right? It's not hyperbole. It is the case. Um, so I mean, that's my like that's like my hot take view. Guess about 30 minutes in. I wasn't gonna go like that late, but like I don't know if anybody like has any like questions or like topics they want me to address. Now would probably be like a pretty good time after my spiel on fascism. The problem is getting that message to them. They aren't watching this. Yeah, I mean that is like the issue of our times. Yeah, this is the issue of our time, right? Like we're all in bubbles or in these like different, like I would say, like my philosopher cap on, different, we live in sort of like epistemic realities. Um yeah, I mean this is the battle that we all have to fight, right? Like together, like at dinner tables, like in the streets, like um I think it's very very important, right, to not put your head down, and not to let like lies just go like unchallenged. I said this before, right? Like I don't think that like people should fight with their families, but I also think that you should still fight for truth within your family. um don't get into shouting matches, but if like, if someone says like, well, like all those 50 people that you say are innocent were all gang members. I like read that on like, some like right wing like thing. You just say that's not true. It's not true. And they say yes it is. And you say, well, that's not true. And just like just like leave it at that. Create the friction. Create the friction. Don't let things slide. Um, it's always it's important. like in those little moments to those little tiny protests like mean a lot in the grand scope of things, of not sort of allowing the fascist spectacle to drown out um, the truth. Like you are a vehicle for truth, and you can like represent it in your daily life, and everyone should. um I think we had like other questions here, or is it um living in a dark red county is in a now red state. That means someone such as myself has reasons for concern, especially considering that 70-85% of my voters in my county are MAGA. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it would be like. I mean, I live in LA, which is like pretty liberal. Um, Although, I mean, it has pockets of MAGA. Like you'd be surprised. In Los Angeles, you go down to Huntington Beach, it's like actually like pretty MAGA. Or you go out and not too far, um, Bakersfield, or especially, or out in Palmdale, not too far away. I mean, those are like deep red areas that are very nearby. Um, and you see the MAGA flags in everyone's house. It's quite like it's real. I mean, I don't like, look, here's the thing, like I don't want to like culturally talk down to people, because I mean I get it. Like I'm sort of like a whatever, like I'm a sort of a coastal elitist. I get it. And I don't think I'm better than anyone because of like where I'm situated in my life. But like it's weird. It's weird to like fly a Trump flag. I mean, like I would never, I mean, I would never fly any flag other than the American flag. Maybe the California flag along with it, right, at my house. Um, I would, but I would, this idea of like these people. I mean, I go out there for drives because I like, I have I like to, um, I'm a driver. I um, like drive my car on, used to drive my car on the racetrack, uh, my weekend car, if you will. But I would go out there, like to the desert, drive out there, see the Joshua trees, and the Palm Desert, and it's just crazy. Like every like house after house out there, have Trump flags on their flagpoles. Um, it's crazy. Um, but anyways, what was it? What are the other things that people are saying here? Um, I so appreciate what you write and how you write it. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm like screwing around with my writing. I've had like all these kind of crazy ideas, right? Of like sort of like mimetic approach to writing, um and like I played around with mytho poetry. Um and I think, and it's like weird and like scary to like, I think some like intellectual types, when they like see like some of the stuff that like I'm doing, it kind of sometimes seems like maybe a little bit like almost like borderline like religious, which it really isn't. I mean, if you read it straight through, I mean, it's very self-aware, right? It's like I'm very kind of transparent about what I'm doing. I'm not trying to like pull the wool over anyone's eyes. Like I'm like it's mythopoetry, right? It's trying to use mythological structure and poetic and poetic refrain to elicit more of an emotional response while reading, like and I have this, like, go to my like mythology section or Mike's philosophy like tabs on the website, and I talk about how I do all of this. I'm not like hiding it from anybody. But yeah, some people people think it's like very weird. But I mean, like, it's like, we live in an interregnum right now, and I just feel like, I've always wanted to like play around with these ideas, and so I'm doing it. Um, any other questions, things like people want me to touch on before I wrap up tonight? I know this was like a little bit later in the night, so I'm not probably not getting many people from the East Coast, as many people from the East Coast anyways, as I normally would. I only have like 65 people listening or watching right now. Usually I have like a few hundred by now. But I'm usually that's usually because I do them much earlier, so more people are awake. Um, Let me see, did I miss anything? Um, how do you deal with people feeling you are being arrogant when you're trying to like educate them? I mean, people don't like this answer, but here's like the thing, like some people are not really reachable, like really, like through argument. Like they're just not, unfortunately. Um, and this is like a hard thing to accept, like especially when it's like a significant other, when it's a parent, it's like a child, a sibling, um, spouse. Um, like part of the problem is, right, like people believe these things because they're like their information ecosystem, like the way in which they sense make the world has been like captured by, in most cases, like by like algorithms, by social media algorithms, and their sense of like who they and also who they go to like tell them like what is and what is true, the people they've chosen to trust, and maybe the crazier end of things, like the Alex Joneses or the Candace Owens of the world. And once you like go there, like once you're like this is the person that I trust to tell me like what is true and what is false. I mean, that's like hard. I mean, that's like culty programming shit, right? Like these people have been completely pulled into a world where like they can sort of explain anything. They can explain anything and everything, right? Like one of the things that you really saw among MAGA people after Joe Biden won the 2020 election was this sort of like insane, like like confluence of cognitive dissonance, where on like people on one hand would like, you know, like try to like argue like crazy like conspiracy theories about how like Donald Trump was actually still president and was still in command of the armed forces, yet Joe Biden stole the election. And you could see like, you know these kinds of arguments. I mean, I personally had like someone like arguing with me where like these kinds of points were like brought up, and you're just like, how can these two thoughts exist in your head at the same time? I don't understand that. That's incoherent. These things, and like their brains are just mush. They're mush. Like um uh and it's interesting too because like people like this like believe themselves to be independent thinkers, but they have completely like exported like all critical thought to these like MAGA influencers from whom they deduce are the ultimate truth tellers. I mean, when somebody like kind of like invests like that much of their identity into something like that, like there's no like argument, there's no like way of like arguing with them that's gonna like break them from this. This is like what makes them feel safe as like a person. It's what gives them a sense of like safety and sense of like understanding of the world that they live in. Like the idea that like Don Bongino is like wrong is like it's like akin to like someone saying like, "Hey honey, like, you know, just so you know, like after 10 years of marriage, I want you to know that I've been lying to you the whole time." Right? Like it's like for them, it's like that like level of like psychological distress. Like they've really invested themselves in these information ecosystems, and they've basically like rewritten their brain to think in terms of like sense making like through these figures. I mean, it's not going to take like one conversation. It's going to take years and years and years of like a healthier information environment for someone like that to like actually like reconnect with reality. Um, that's one of the reasons why I don't think that like uh we're gonna save this country by winning the midterms and the presidency in 2028. Like these people are fucking captured like by these information ecosystems. Like they are completely captured, right? Like even if the economy collapses, right, completely, like from the supply shock that we're going to start feeling in the next 1 to 2 weeks, even though they've taken the foot off the brakes of these tariffs, you're going to have like a good like I don't know like 1/5 of Americans that will like just simply be prepared to believe fucking anything Trump tells them about like why the economy has collapsed. Like if Trump is like the reason why the economy has collapsed is because the Chinese did this or the Canadians did this or the Mexicans did this, their response is going to be like down with the Chinese and the Mexicans and the Canadians. Like it doesn't occur to them that what Trump says is wrong. So even if Trump like contradicts himself, like their brain is just like, well, he's the ultimate teller of truth. That's like how their psychology works. Like a good like 1 in a very 5 and like they like and so that's insane, right? If you have like 1/5 of your population that is that like fucking like programmed, like you're going to be dealing with this fascist problem for a long time because these people are going to like they're exploitable. They can be coalitioned. And if they can be coalitioned, that's very attractive to like, other populists on the right, especially to try and build a base around that. Like we're going to be dealing with these people in the 2030s. And I know that that's like really stressful to think about, but it's also just the truth. The social forces here are very, very dangerous. Um, and I mean it is like what it is. Um, I fear the economy collapsing will be further confirmation. They're right. Yeah, I mean like that's what happens, right? Like when you get into like a cult like state, right? Like everything validates that you're correct. People disagreeing with you proves that you're right. People agreeing with you proves that you're right. Like I mean there's no way to prove that you're wrong like once you enter that sort of like kind of psychology. Um Anyways, I mean, that's not like everybody. I mean, there are like some Republicans, obviously, that are going to be like, "What the fuck? Like, this isn't what I voted for." And it might be like, it might be a significant majority of Americans that vote for, you know, some consensus Democrat or maybe non-consensus Democrat in 2028. But I think that we should talk about like what I think happens even if the Democrats win in 2028. Um, I think we're in for a shitstorm. Um, because the American government. I mean, I actually don't want to get into this actually because this gets into the whole conversation around like state capacity and stuff, and we do need to have a conversation about that at some point on one of these Substack lives. And I should write about it, but I I look at this as like a series of battles that's going to stretch over the next 10 years. Um, and there could be like a world war before that before this is all done. This is a very scary historical moment. Um, but doesn't mean that we shouldn't have our eye on the ball and that we shouldn't be trying to win these political fights. We absolutely should be trying to win the midterms. We absolutely should be trying to win the presidency back, and we absolutely need to oppose this government in the streets. People should be on the streets, but like we're not in the streets. Americans are not taking this half as seriously as they could. They should. We have at least 50 innocent people, according to the Cato Institute, that followed our immigration laws and are currently serving life sentences in a Central American gulag. Like that just needs to be like constantly like repeated. That's that's historically outrageous. In 2025, the United States government has done that and is undertaking no action to try and reverse that outcome. That's like I don't know. that I mean, if you don't think this is if you don't think this is fascism, I don't know what to tell you. This is scary. But anyways, I'm going to capstone it there for tonight. I know I haven't done some of these in a while. I'll try to do them more regularly. I was traveling a little bit, so it was harder to do them. But now that I'm like sitting in one place, I can do some more of these. I'll try to have guests too. I just been too lazy to try and book guests for my Substack live. Um, but anyways, thank you everyone for joining tonight. For those who didn't catch the whole thing, I'll be uploading the recording of this to the site, and so you can watch the playback. But thanks everyone for showing up. I'll uh I'll see you soon.